Greetings to mankind. This is Uviwe Makiva from Eastern Cape, Bizana in Clancy location. So I did my studies at Walter Sisulu University doing Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting from 2015 until 2018. Immediately after completing my degree, I went to Vert University and enrolled for BSc in Computer Science on a part-time basis. I am also the Chief Executive Officer of a company known as Edgene. This is the company that now intends to render a response to the current pandemic, otherwise known as COVID-19. In this presentation, I will take you through the introduction to the company, introduce you to the projects of the company, then open a window through which you can see one of the biggest projects of the company, the South African Mastermind Project. So, as far as the introduction to the company is concerned, I would love to take you through the shareholders of the company, otherwise known as the owners of the company. So on your left, there is Uviwe Makiva, that's me over there, from Bizana, Eastern Cape. Next to me, there is a lady there. She is Asipe Somapele, but now known as Abulele Galam, from Holy Cross, Eastern Cape. And then next to them is Sibusisa Nkambule from Krugersdorp, Gauteng Province. And then lastly, we have Miss Nomthandazo Dube from Belkom in Free State. So I met Asipe in 2012 while I was still doing my grade 10 at Dandiso Senior Secondary School. And then that's when I got to know her. But I have a spiritual relationship with her, and she is my spiritual mother. And then with Sibusisa Nkambule, the guy from Krugersdorp, I have a very strong business relationship with him. And then with Nomthandazo Dube, I have a very, very strong science relationship with her. So I got to know the spiritual world through Asipe Somapele, and then I got to know the business world through Sibusisa Nkambule, and lastly I got to know the science world through Nomthandazo Dube.
Listen to my voice.
Alright, let us get to the projects of the company. First of all, you need to understand that the company is no longer an education-based company. It's a research-intensive company. And our projects are divided into two basic categories. The first category being testable projects. Testable projects are implementable projects. And then there are also projects that are still at an ideal level. And we have 4 testable projects and also 4 projects that are still at an ideal level. For now, I will take you through 2 projects that are interrelated to each other. Alright, those projects are talent-based curriculum project, and then there is also South African Mastermind project. Talent-based curriculum is a project that is aimed at giving us the true definition or rather the true meaning of education. And then the South African Mastermind project is aimed at giving us the true meaning of success. With those 2 projects, we get to confirm the statement once laid by Solomon Otis, saying education is the key to success. After completing those two projects, we will then finally have an answer as to whether or not Mr. Otis was correct. Alright, so there's also a project called Anti-Abortion Project. I won't dwell much on that project now, And then there's also another project called Entrepreneurship Education Project. That project is currently at 8% level of completion. So we plan to educate non-scholars through that project. That's the project where we will be able to test the talent-based curriculum in order to see whether or not education can be applicable into the real world. Alright, so getting to the projects that are still at an ideal level, I will just browse through them. I won't dwell much on them at this present moment. We have artificial weather, which is currently sitting at 2% level of completion, and then we have digital tourist, and then we have smart prison, and then lastly we have a giant teacher. All of those projects are at 2% level of completion. Before we get any deeper with the South African Mastermind project, we would love to first congratulate the 3 tools that we have been using until this far. So those are the 3 tools that we have used to understand the true definition of success. First of all, we have used philosophy to understand the life purpose of mankind, and then we have used theology to understand how is it possible for us to acquire peace of mind for mankind, and lastly we have used business to understand how is it possible for us to derive happiness for mankind. Let us now get to the second part of the presentation. We are now exploring the South African Mastermind project in a greater detail. The South African Mastermind project is divided into 3 basic levels: the time travelers, the policymakers, and the industry leaders. The time travelers are tasked with traveling through time in order to reconcile the future and the past. This will bring exciting experiences for the present time. Policymakers are meant to enforce the vision of Edgene to all members of this project. Industry leaders are responsible for the successful evolution and the fourth industrial revolution compatibility of their industries. The policymakers are subdivided into 3 sectors: philosophy, theology, and business sector. Each sector comprises of 3 industries, with philosophy sector consisting of science, research, and technology industries. The theology sector consists of nature reserve and environment industry, farming and agriculture industry, rural and urban development industry. The business sector, on the other hand, comprises of education industry, media and marketing industry, finance and investment industries. Allow me to welcome you to the new earth that humanity is creating in this century. I would love to congratulate everyone who made it to the list of initial members of this project. Your names will indeed make it to the history books of Africa. The philosophy sector is meant to be managed by a company owned by Mr. Yu Makiva, Ms. N. Dube, Ms. Seth Sogekle, and Edgene. The science industry in this sector will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Sivenkosi Lateta. The research industry will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Luvalwalo Kamata. The technology industry will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Slindi Lekwan. The theology sector is meant to be managed by company owned by Mr. N. Jobe, Miss A. Nombanga, Miss N. Dlamini, and Edgene. So, the rural and urban development industry of this sector will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Nancy Bacha. The nature reserve and environment industry will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Welile Pupa. The agriculture and farming industry will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Signovuyo Mapupa. The business sector is meant to be managed by a company owned by Mr. S. Mondlazi, Ms. A. Ntlanganiso, Mr. Y. Mke, and Edgene. So in this sector, education industry will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Mkanye Simboyisa. The media and marketing industry will be managed by a company owned by Mr. Yamkela Zosi. The finance and investment industry will be managed by a company owned by Ms. Samkele Mcinga. This is the end of the second part of our presentation, and I would love to thank you for your time.